All right, so modally, we got all the way up to aioli, and we're going to take a little pauser there on all the definitions and all the baggage and that whole board of what's what, where it goes, and the different concepts just come down to playing scales and then being able to accentuate your different patterns in your notes. So you know how to play a major scale, so we'll just basically base everything off the major Ionian or the minor Ionian. The variances of doing like the Ionian and then on your 7th scale degree, sharpening that, you can have different influence and flair, which could be considered a melodic minor, your natural minor, which is what the normal minor scale is in, or you could have different influences where you have different tones that are combinations of flattening and sharpening from different other modal structures. Long story short, you'll just naturally see it when you're playing and hearing all these different scales values. So the takeaway from what we've learned up to this point is everything has a tempo, everything has a tonal note and interval, and the spacings of those intervals into which you put them can be considered Ionian, and if you move one of the movements, it goes to a different mode. As long as that's the basic concept for all these, that you now have the grail to be able to figure out your modal structures if you want. Like if you wanted to know Lydian, do, 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 getting rid of the whole step, half step, and then putting that at the end would just give you the Lydian. Because you would definitely start in C as having, excuse me, got verklempt, C, D, E, F, so you start on your F. You would definitely have that Lydian influence with that raised fourth, and the way you found that is just by knowing your major scale. That's all that would take. So that would be the cap of all modal structures. Other than that, it's just hearing what they are in correlation to what song you're playing in. The other thing I wanted to get through is how to hear a chord and know it's a 1, 4, 5 movement, or hear like a random chord and know what note that is. If you're in the key of A and you want to figure out what B minor is, so A major to B minor would be a second. I just want to be able to know that, so when we're doing stuff like would basically be a 1, 4, 2, 5. Just that gets through, that's going to make talking about songs from different bands that we like a little bit easier. Noticing still that those half steps in each one of these kind of structures is where you're going to notice the influence, and being able to associate that with the reason why somebody chose to move it. Good examples are a lot of bands play in a particular mode, which until now I believe would just been understand that it's not major, it's minor. But knowing now that there is a variation from I can move between modes in the minor as long as both of those modal structures are minor modes. So the correlation is, when do you use that? The answer is yes. And I know that sounds weird, but when you use that is the answer. Where it would be no would be not on a major, unless you intended to use a minor phrasing on a major, or vice versa, which, as we talked about today, it really is up to the artist and how you want to lend to the ear and what that ear hears. So where we are with the aioli, we're going to take a bit of a pause, I guess, on the describing stuff. So just so we can have a better correlation between what we want to accomplish. And what we want to accomplish is knowing how to solo, I assume, or at least know where we are structurally. So those two things: one, knowing what a major scale is; two, knowing exactly how to get to a different mode if you so wanted to. So if you wanted to do an Aeolian mode and you played a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, which is your C major, you would go to your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and start the major chord, which would give you your Aeolian mode. If you take those intervals that you just played from there and do it in any key, it turns into the Aeolian minor. That's all that was. So using that over what is a, let's say it's a 1, 4, 2, 5 progression. Got a major major structure, knowing I could do 3 different modes there, possibly 4, 5, 6, 8 different types of scales, whether it's a major pentatonic, a whole tone, a augmented or diminished and or dominant. So long story short is, without getting into what those are, the only way I could explain it is play what you feel over the top of things, and what you will notice is some notes that are contained within your pentatonics are also contained within your relatives. And thusly, when you're playing one way up and one way down, you notice notes that should or shouldn't be in there. So let's say we're in that same... I'm just going to play what I feel. Moving through those, I felt more like the A major should be played up top here, which gave me like these out of the pentatonic. And then I had that kind of that blues major where I'm sliding into the third from the second, third, or flat third, rather, into the A. And then when it goes down to the 4, where it has the minor, I could have the influence of some sort of different note. I like that Dorian note there, that half step with the flat 6. I could have also done Aeolian, or a natural minor, or that was a natural minor, or a melodic minor, or even a whole tone scale. I don't use those a lot. But as you can see, just because there's a pattern underneath, even if the pattern were to go down to G, to a C minor, to an A minor, to an E major, 7, I can still have that something along those lines. That was really notey, but if I just did a then I would come into like more of a melody, and that's when I would write something around that. But as far as like just jamming over the tune, you could take any different number of things that have a major or a minor and throw a couple different things at it. So I think that's what we're going to be talking about while dissecting tunes and seeing what artists do and why they add like hammer-ons, pull-ons, slides, and all this little, what I consider frivolous notation between the one chord. But what that does is it just leads to improvisation and melody building structure. So to make this video very, very short, just give a couple songs to me during the week that I could get through and I could learn, and then I could get back and we could make maybe pancake lessons off of that central theme, and then tie in a little bit of what you already essentially know, because I've been watching your fingers while you're doing this, and you're doing these, and they all have rhyme and reason in their place and where you are. Just the fastness of it, if you were to slow it down and have we would see that as being something something that we could work off as a stepping stone, rather than just being thrown into the water and saying, this is Frisian. I absolutely understand. There's no reason to use terminology that we're not going to use. Let's have real case examples. So I'm going to do my best and bring a couple to the table next week, and throw me a couple during the week. I had a great time at lessons, and thanks for the heads up on Matador. And I listened to that. It does feel kind of doomy and gloomy for Zep. Anyway, shoots, have a good week.